Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Tribe Talk. Anne and I are so excited to be here with you. This is Dr. V, and today I have two special guests. We have Boris Peysakhov with us, and we also have Greg, my husband. And you're gonna understand fully why I've got Greg, my husband, with us today here in just a minute.
Absolutely. We've got an exciting show today. I'm really looking forward to talking about our topic today because I'm going to admit I am a newbie to all of this. And so Boris is going to teach me something as well as our listeners today. So let me tell you a little bit about Boris before we dive in and get started. Boris is a biohacker, he's a futurist, a cryptocurrency investor and plant medicine enthusiast whose vision is at the leading edge of human optimization and expansion of consciousness. Now, Boris spends his time educating his community on alternative investments such as cryptocurrencies, gold, and silver, the benefits of plant medicine, particularly microdosing, magic mushrooms, as well as speaking about what his vision of society 2.0 looks like. Boris, thanks so much for being here today. We're going to dive into talking about cryptocurrency investing. Give us a little bit of background about yourself and how you got involved in this alternative investment space.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I got involved in the overall investment and finance space a little bit over 15 years ago. I started working in real estate and quickly transitioned into commercial real estate lending. I worked for a major subsidiary of Deutsche Bank, whom provided loans for hotels, office buildings, multifamily properties, and large commercial real estate properties all around the United States. And I started off as a financial analyst and a portfolio manager. My team was involved in directly working with just under $2 billion worth of assets in under 3 years when I was there. A little bit shortly after that, I left and joined a private equity fund that owned a large amount of office buildings in Manhattan. I worked there for a bit and then went off to start up my own consulting company called Pace of Properties, where I work with investors and wealthy individuals and funds to help them find the different types of commercial properties, and then moved into other types of alternative investments. And that's kind of when I started to learn more about gold and silver and the actual US economy and world economy and macroeconomics. And I'm not an economist by any means, but I am an investor, and there are certain aspects of economics that any individual and wealthy or savvy investor needs to understand. And that's how I got involved with precious metals. And eventually in 2016, Bitcoin came out in 2009, and I noticed it, but I didn't really uh, go really deeply into it. I knew what it was. I had very, very basic fundamentals of it. But in 2016 is when I really got involved in Bitcoin as well as other cryptocurrencies. And that's when I became really excited about the possibilities of what decentralized cryptocurrencies and different types of alternative investments can do for an investor as well as the world. So both profit wise as well as where they can take the world. And that's how I got here. And what happened is many friends, family members, community members began to approach me in months and years and ask me for help and basic education as to how they can get started. And it got to a point where there were so many requests and so much time was needed to educate my community. And that's how I got here today.
It's the education behind what you do, that you take what many would consider kind of like complex concepts, and you take it and you make it very, very simple. And that's one of the things that I was fascinated with when we started these conversations. But I have to tell you, what even got my attention for us to have these conversations was when you started talking to us about why you are doing what you're doing. And
Mhm.
that's where I'd like to circle back to that. And let's talk about why you're educating people on what's coming, and why these investments, and why now, and
Mhm.
what our world is going to look like in the coming years. Because when you and I first sat down and met each other and had conversation, I was in a little bit of a fearful place. Not
Mhm.
over COVID, not over the virus, because I know better than that. But I didn't understand what was coming,
Mhm.
and then you sat down with me, and everything that you said resonated so deeply with me, like down inside of every cell of my body, and in my heart and in my spirit, and it made sense to me what you were saying. And then when you went into your story about why you're doing what you're doing, as far as like educating people, um, then I knew that I had to share your message. So please tell us a little bit about your vision and your mission in all of this.
Yeah. Um, well, in order to understand my mission and my vision, you first have to understand what's happening in the US economy and the world in general. So we can get into the details, but I'll kind of gloss over it and give you the big picture. What's happening right now in the overall world economy is that the old system that's been around for the last 100 plus years of managing our money, our economy, the banking sector, and responsible for all the assets in the world, really, and just the overall global economy is on its way out. And it's on its way out is because uh, its way of doing things no longer work. And what's happening is most people who are not even in finance are probably reading the news or watching the regular news channel, and they're seeing that the U.S. government is printing more and more money, stimulus packages they call them, 2 trillion here, 3 trillion there, trillion here, trillion there. Well, what that does on a macro level is that it causes inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is the devaluation of our currency that we use today, which is the dollar, or if you're in Turkey, it's the lira, or whichever country you are, you have your own currency. But all of this is happening in almost every single major country across the world. Governments, their systems that they have right now are inefficient, ineffective, and broken. And in order to keep their machine moving and going, they have to continue to print or create massive amounts of money out of thin air. And when you do that, you dilute the existing supply of the money that's already in circulation, that's already here. And what that does is it devalues the purchasing power of the currency. So, for example, um, our current rate of inflation, which is the current rate of the devaluation, is at around 20%. What does that mean? That means that if you have $10,000 sitting in the bank account for the last 12 months, that $10,000 now has the purchasing power of $8,000 based on a 20% inflation rate, right? We're exceeding 15%, heading to 20. We can really use either one of those numbers. It doesn't really matter. 20 is probably just around the corner by now. So what's happening is that individuals think that the government is bailing companies out and everyone's getting these beautiful stimulus checks, but it's actually the oldest form of robbery that the government has uh, invoked on the people. And people think that the government is printing the money and everything is free and everything is great and we can just print more and more money out of thin air. But that's not how this thing works. Every dollar that we print dilutes the existing supply. And when you're printing more than you should be at a given time, you're destroying the current currency. So what's happening is that people who have any type of savings or not, if you have an IRA, if you have a 401k, a retirement account that is making less than the current rate of inflation, let's just call it 15% just to be conservative. So if you have an IRA account or a stock or a bond or any investment that is producing less than 15% per year, you're actually losing money. And people don't realize it. People think that they have savings, they have investments, but they're actually being robbed. And the people that are in charge of this know exactly what's going on, exactly what's happening, but they're banking on the fact that most of the people have no clue as to what's really happening. So an average investment account, IRA account, a retirement account, or a mutual bond fund, or whatever, is probably making somewhere around 7% per year, and people are happy with it. I'm not even talking about the fees that are being taken out by the money manager or the platform that manages that account. Let's just say 7% a year, and if the rate of inflation, which is rate of the devaluation, is at 15% and exceeding, then 15 minus 7 is what? 8, 7, whatever what's the number, right?
Yeah.
7, 8, 8 by now, right? So it's 8%. So you're losing 8% per year instead of making the 7 that you thought we were. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to educate the general public, my friends, my community, in actually preserving their wealth, and not just preserving their wealth, but preserving their sovereignty. And for me, to me personally, based on my experience, all I've learned, all I've done, some of the best ways to do that is to invest into alternative assets. And to me, there are a number of different alternative assets out there, but my three favorite are gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. But when it comes to Bitcoin, people, most people have heard of Bitcoin, and many people have. There are over 9,000 different cryptocurrencies out there right now. And Bitcoin is just one of them. It dominates 70% of the market, but it's just one. And I talk about 10 of my top. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. So just to give you guys a basic idea is this. If this right here is the current global economy, which is about 300 trillion with all the assets and everything else, this right here is all the money in the world, which is the government money, is about 100 trillion. This right here is the cryptocurrency market. This is about 1 trillion. So what's happening right now is people are beginning to realize banks, huge, massive institutions, Wall Street funds, etc., are realizing that that their money that they've invested in all these assets, all these funds at 7, 10% a year is melting. It's losing value very quickly. So what are these banks doing or about to do? And some of them already are. They're fleeing this space that is melting and going into this space that has the best potential to grow and has been growing. In fact, I'll give you some ideas. I mean, gold and silver hasn't really performed well in the last 10 years because there's massive manipulation. We can even get into that. But when you just talk about Bitcoin, forget about all the other cryptocurrencies. So I'll give you some statistics that I kind of talk about in my course. 2010 to 2020 investment data shows that Netflix stock went up by 4,177% in 10 years. Awesome, right? You wish you could have purchased that. And then Amazon was around 1,000%. Google was, I think, around 700%. Microsoft 500% within 10 years. Bitcoin grew by 8.9 million percent within that same time frame. Now, I'm not saying it's going to go by the same amount within the next 10 years, but Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency space is at its infancy. And it is my belief and the belief of many other experts out there that it is the future. It is the future of our world. It is the future of our money. It is the future of our banking. It is the future of applications, of streaming. Bitcoin isn't just money. It isn't just currency. It's a store of value. It's a technology that can be applied to many, many different areas in our society. So that's kind of my little quick overview as to what's going on and why I got into it.
Yeah, no, that's great, Boris. Thank you. So after hearing those amazing, returns, like if you were to buy into Bitcoin, and well, you said it was in an infancy, but back when it was just emerging in the market, and this a crazy return. Um, Myself, and I'm sure many others are wondering, well, I'm just going to take and dump everything I have into Bitcoin,
Hmm.
and I'm going to ride this amazing roller coaster. Can you explain to me why that? Hey, let's slow down, Greg. Let's not do that.
Hmm.
Uh, can you explain to the listeners and viewers on why we wouldn't want to just dump all of our savings or all the money they have under their bed into Bitcoin?
Sure. So my personal investment philosophy is this: diversification. Never put all your eggs into one basket. That's why in my course, for example, I recommend Bitcoin, but I also recommend 9 other cryptocurrencies in that same space. And those cryptocurrencies or those blockchain projects are responsible for different parts or different aspects of their own. So you're diversified within the blockchain sector. And then, well, why put everything into the blockchain sector? You could. It's definitely, or not definitely, in my personal opinion, the blockchain sector will outperform any other sector in the next 5 years, including gold and silver. However, I think gold and silver are also going to perform exceptionally well over the course of the next 3 to 5 years. So, because we never put all our eggs into one basket, you diversify to gold and silver. And how you diversify is up to you and based on your risk appetite. For example, my parents' allocation currently is 50% into gold and silver, 50% into various types of cryptocurrencies. That's their risk level based on explanations I've been able to present to them and based on their understanding. My personal allocation is 75% to cryptocurrencies, 25% into gold and silver. And guess what? That can change next month in either direction based on my comfort level. But that's where I am. And that's in my course, what I do is I present my ideal investment portfolio. And this portfolio consists of 18 different assets, 8 assets, stocks in the gold and silver mining sector, and 10 assets in the cryptocurrency sector. This way, you are very well diversified among what I call my ideal alternative investment strategy. And you take this strategy, you park it, you're not a day trader, you park it for 3 to 5 years and you watch it grow. That's it.
Yeah.
Boris, let me ask you this. There's a lot of people listening, I'm sure, and people out there who this is something very new to them. They're just kind of diving into the whole cryptocurrency realm. Does someone need to have a large amount of money and invest a large amount of money to see some success when it comes to getting a return on their investment? Or can someone potentially make a decent amount of money investing small amounts? Because not everyone has, a huge bank account to be able to throw that, thousands or $100,000 into an investment.
Sure. That's a great question. Before I answer it, I want to preface with the fact that I am not a certified financial advisor, and this overall interview and podcast isn't financial advice. I'm someone who has over 15 years of experience in finance and investment, and I use that information to make decisions for myself. And this podcast is us just having a conversation between ourselves.
Yeah.
So, any listeners that are listening to this, if they take anything from this, I highly recommend them doing their own research and homework to make sure that these investments or this strategy fits what they want to do. However, having said all that, the great thing about these investments is that you can start with as little as $500. I have friends who come to me and say, Boris, I don't have much money. Actually, I had a friend over last night and we got him started with $200. And he'll be adding $20, $25 a month into that portfolio. So to answer your question, you can start with as little as a couple $100 and slowly build that up. And so having this conversation with my friend, he said, well, listen, what if I get $1,000 into here in the next month or so and just leave it here? What do you think that will do within the next 5 years or so, 3 to 5 years? And I said, listen, I don't have a crystal ball, but based on what I've seen in the cryptocurrency and the gold and silver space, just in general, we'll just stick to cryptocurrencies for a second. Based on what I've seen, so the Bitcoin has been around for over 12 years. So we have 12 years worth of data to see how it has performed and why it has performed. And we have sentiment, we have information, we have feedback from different funds, from major investment companies, for institutional investors, from savvy investors, talking about where they think it's going to go based on what is done in the future and based in the past and based on what we see go in the future. And I said to them this way, in my personal opinion and experience, I see Bitcoin, just Bitcoin itself, doing a 10 to 20x in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, what does that mean? Let's just say it's 10x. 10x means 1,000% return. So, in my personal opinion, if you were to invest $1,000 into Bitcoin or a number of other cryptocurrencies today, in the next 3 to 5 years, you can turn that into $10,000 to $20,000, possibly even more, depending on how the market goes. Now, an average rate of return on Wall Street right now is, again, 7% a year versus conservative of 1,000%. I call it a conservative 10x, which a lot of my friends laugh about. But I'm like, hey, this is a conservative 10x, which is kind of a joke, but the market has proved it to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Did that answer your question?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's really inspiring for people who are thinking, well, I don't have 50,000 or 100,000 or 200 or 300,000 to invest. That's a huge return on a small investment for that can help anybody.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is, so this is so to me, I'm an investor. Um, I love making money, but I have some parameters around how I invest. I I'm no saint, but I only invest in investments that support the betterment of our society, period. And in today's world, thankfully to cryptocurrencies and to silver as well as gold, you can do that. We have those options. Back in the days, we were just we had very limited options. We had stocks, bonds, real estate properties, etc. And not that those are bad for society, but to me, investing in Bitcoin and decentralized cryptocurrencies is the best type of a peaceful revolution that an individual or a group of individuals can be a part of. And investment is one way of looking at it, but voting with your dollar is another way of looking at it. And we can talk about what happened with Wall Street bets and all these different stocks a couple of days ago. Greg, you and I had this conversation as well. Something really interesting happened within the last week, and I call it a revolution, or the remnants, or the beginning of a revolution. What happened was this: a number of people on Reddit, younger individuals and savvy investors like myself who understand what's happening in a big picture, got together and realized that there are major Wall Street funds and banks and institutions tied to the government and supported by the government, very likely, who have been manipulating the stock market for a very long time and basically turned the stock market into a casino. And what do we know about casinos? The house always wins, and the little guy always loses, at least in the big picture. So people got together, and a couple guys got together and posted a post on Reddit talking about what would we do if we went against these institutions and voted with our dollar against them, against their bet that they were making. So in short, these institutions were shorting or betting against the stock. And in long, if we drove the stock up, that means that they would lose tremendous amount of money. And this is what happens. Millions of individuals, sovereign individuals, got together and invested $200, $500, $1,000, $10,000 in these stocks and wiped out these companies. And what resulted was a $70 billion loss in just 48 hours from these major companies. Now, I am not one who wants companies or any company to lose any money. I am a capitalist, I'm an investor, and I'm also revolutionary. But if there are companies out there, and if there are institutions out there, if there are parties out there that are breaking the rules to screw other people, then they should be taught a lesson. And this is what happens when millions of people around the world get together with just a few $100s each and absolutely show them what is going on and absolutely show them what will happen to them if they continue this. It's basically a slap on the wrist or a smack on the cheek, if you can call it that. And to me, investing in assets like Bitcoin, like gold and silver, which actually go everything against everything that is not this current financial system. This current financial system, these assets defy the overall foundation of the current fiat banking empire, these banking elite, these 1% that have been controlling this money and hoarding this money at the top. See, I talk about this in the course, but there's way more than enough wealth and resources in this world in order for every single human being to never have to worry about meal or shelter or where the next meal is coming from. There's way more than enough money. But these institutions, these banks, these wealthy families, these elites created artificial scarcity. And that world was never necessary in the first place. And part of my mission, probably my main mission, is to wake individuals up, to show them that how powerful we are together by just voting with a few $100s of our money. You don't need thousands of millions, just a few $100s of us getting together. You get a million people invest $500 in one thing, that's $500 million, or one thing, one stock, or one currency, or one asset. It doesn't matter. $500 million, that's a lot of money. What if we did 1,000? What if we got 5 million people? So the world is beginning to wake up. Individuals are beginning to wake up and realize how powerful we are together, united. And this will shift the flow and the direction in which the world is moving today. And that's, again, part of my mission, to wake up as many people as possible, to show them what is possible, and have them take back control of their money, of their finances, and take back their sovereignty so they can live their lives, so they can be free, so they don't have to be tied to a 9 to 5 and this corporate BS that we were all taught was part of, the American dream. It's not. You know what the American dream is? You know what the dream is? To live, to enjoy. People ask me what I do for a living. I live for a living. I live for a living. I make money. I do whatever I need to do in order to support this lifestyle, but I live for a living. That's what I do. And that's what I encourage everyone to to get to a place where they're able to do that for themselves. And I don't come from money. I did this all on my own. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
That's so powerful, Boris. Thank you for sharing that. And I mean, it got my juices going just listening to you and thinking about what the collective people can do, including myself, including Dr. V and I and you in that pool of 5 million people. And I know this is something that we've talked about too. Is I'm all excited. I'm ready to go. I want to get into this movement. Um, I don't know if I can just stroll to the corner gas station and purchase a Bitcoin and I get a metal coin that says 1 Bitcoin on it.
Yeah.
Or in the other space when you talk about diversifying, the gold and silver. And I'm not going to go start digging in my backyard for gold and silver, right? So, do you talk about how we can go about and get be part of this revolution, so to speak?
Yeah. So the course was designed for individuals who are like my father, who's well in the 60s, who's never owned a stock or invested in anything in his life, to an individual who maybe owns some real estate property and has owned some stocks in the past, has some basic understanding of investments. So it's literally made for everyone. And what I do in this course is very simple. In this course, I give a very brief education and background as to what's happening in the US economy, why I feel it's a good time to stay away from conventional investments that are being outperformed by the current rate of inflation and performing less than 15%, and get into alternative assets such as gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies. And then once I offer this education, I give them basic education as to how I invest into gold and silver, why I invest in gold and silver, what assets and stocks I buy, where I buy them, and how I buy them. They literally take them by the hand and I walk them through every single step of the process. There are instructional videos as to how to use the exchange. Super simple. If you can use an online, if you can use Facebook, you can use this. If you can use Instagram, you can use this. If you log into your bank account through a mobile application or computer, you can use this. It's super simple. So the entire process of purchasing cryptocurrencies, downloading the application, actually using the application, it's super simple. It can take you as little as 5 minutes to download the application that I use to purchase cryptocurrencies. And in this course, what I do as well, aside from actually show you where I bought it, how I bought it, and why I bought it, I basically show a spreadsheet, which is a chart, which is what I call an allocation spreadsheet. And what I do is I say, based on $10,000 investment, this is what percentage of my $10,000 is in this stock versus this stock versus this stock versus this stock. And what you can do is you can utilize the same spreadsheet and you can punch in, let's say you want to start with not 10,000, let's say you want to start with $200. All you do is you punch in $200 and press enter, and the entire spreadsheet automatically recalculates for you based on how much of each stock you can buy if you want to follow my strategy. And the same thing with the cryptocurrencies. There's a gold and silver section, which talks about gold and silver in allocations, and there's the cryptocurrency section. And the entire course, again, consists of 18 assets. The course was designed, again, for the everyday individual. Because for me, I'm not going for the Wall Street guys. I'm going for individuals, for example, like Anne, who doesn't have much investment experience and maybe doesn't want to start with $50,000. Maybe Anne just wants to start with $500 or $1,000 or $5,000 and that has no clue how to do any of this. It's designed to help the everyday individual gain access to amazing assets that will outperform or likely outperform the rate of inflation over the course of 3 to 5 years and build real wealth.
Yeah, and I just want to talk to the listeners for a second and just kind of tell you just what's kind of going through my mind. And ever since that we met Boris, and we started following this, this stuff that he's been teaching us, how it's been a big game changer for us. So Greg, He was in the corporate world for like, I don't know, almost 15 years working for GE and had been putting money away. And then when we got married, we were both putting more money into those investments. And Greg can tell you more about the tradition. He was doing all the traditional stuff, and he'd been doing that for many, many years. I, on the other hand, um, and I have done this many times in my life. Like I save my money, like literally. When I got out of my doctorate program, I had saved enough money in a shoebox, guys, in a shoebox to start my own practice. And it's a crazy, amazing story. I didn't know how to do investing. I was a single mom, and I literally saved my money in a shoebox. Fast forward, with the work that we do, I've been saving my money in a savings account that had a 3% yield on it, right? Saving my money in a savings account. It was a little too much to save in a shoebox, and so I was doing that. And so Greg had, we were taking, our income and adding it to those investments, and then we had a big chunk that we were literally saving it in a savings account. And since meeting Boris and doing our investments, I think we've been in it for maybe a little over 8 weeks now. We've had. Hey, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So we've been in this alternative strategy that Boris consulted us on since November of 2020, and right now we're well over 100% gain collectively across our stock portfolio as well as our crypto portfolio. And what that means is that we've well exceeded twice our investment. And as Boris mentioned earlier, this is not we're not in this to make that type of return and then cash out, so to speak. This is our longer term, what I call longer term, 3 to 5 years investment. So it's been interesting to see the ups and downs. Yes, we get excited when the market's doing great, and then when it gets to its low point, I got to get reined back in of not freaking out and wanting to say, oh my gosh, we got to get rid of everything, because that's not how you make money, to buy high and sell low.
Yeah, but the overall trend, like even if you look at our stuff, I mean, just like any type of investments, they kind of go like this, but the overall trend has been like this, and it's just it's a beautiful thing to get to see that. And but it's even more beautiful to get to see that and then really be able to resonate and feel the vision that Boris has for the world. We actually can vote with our dollar, and we can put our money into things that are going to really take the world into a different direction. And like Boris said, whether it's a couple $100 or or $5,000 or even more, we can all do that, and together we can really drive this change that's going to help humanity, because the future of this world is not going to be a world of scarcity anymore. Everyone's going to have their sovereignty, and everyone's going to have their freedom, and everyone, no one is going to be starving anymore. There aren't going to be parts of the world that are starving and dying and living in poverty. It's not going to be like that. And the more of us that become aware that we can drive this change, and that we are driving this change, and the more of us that jump in on that, the faster that this is going to happen.
100%.
And I'd like to add too, Dr. V mentioned something great, becoming aware. And I just want to take a few seconds here to talk about when I became aware. So you heard earlier that Dr. V mentioned that we had some money in a high yield savings account, right around that 2.93%. And all of last year, every single month, I received an email notification on that high yield interest rate going down, 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 until it really, comparing to a standard bank, which Standard Bank is one of the big banks, it was still high, but it was nowhere near 3%. I think the last statement I saw, it was at 0.5%. That was my awareness that, okay, something is happening, and we need to make action happen here.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I'm so excited about investing in the cryptocurrency space now, and gold and silver as well, is this. As I mentioned to you, and as you just talked about, the current rates of return on all investments out there, for the most part, conventional investments, are dropping. The dollar is being devalued. And the cool thing about it is that there are amazing wealth funds in the world out there that invest in good assets or want to invest in good assets, but they can't. And they have billions of dollars. And what's happening is that all these funds are beginning to wake up and realize what's happening and realize that the money that they are managing on behalf of their investors, whether it's pensions or whatever, is melting like an ice cube, melting every single year. And every single year, that ice cube melts more and more and more. And right now, our current rate of inflation is exceeding 15%. There are many experts that believe that we'll be at 30 to 40% in the next 12 to 24 months, maybe even 50 to 60%. Why? Because the government, the Federal Reserve, cannot stop printing money at this point. The US economy is this broken machine, and the second you stop printing money, it combusts and it takes down every single major world economy with it. So they're going to continue to ride this for as long as they can, and they can't stop, the result of which continues to further devalue the actual dollar and raise the rate of inflation. So all these funds are, for them to make investment decisions, takes 6 to 12 months for them to move anything. But the good thing about us, the little guys, is we don't have to consult with anyone. We can take our $200, our $500, our 5,000, our 10,000, $100,000, and we can invest it into alternative assets, position ourselves well right now, and wait for these guys to come on board. And when they come on board, we will rise with that wave using them and each other as well. And we are voting into the system, and so are they. And what it does, it takes money from this part of the world, the fiat banking system, and it injects it into here, and this system grows. And next thing you know, society moves from here to here. And this is what I call a transition from society 1.0, the old archaic way of doing things, of operating, to society 2.0, a more efficient, a more effective way of operating, a more abundant way of operating. And money and finances isn't the only part of the overall happiness formula, but in my opinion, it is certainly a significant part of that formula, right? You can just think of it this way: if most of the people in the world right now had no financial tension or pressure, they would be able to concentrate on things that they love to do versus things that they have to do. When you operate and concentrate on things that you love to do, you operate more from the heart. You're happier, you're calmer, you sleep better, you're overall healthier. Your system is more at ease versus at dis ease. And this is where, on a macro level, I see society transitioning. And Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, gold, and silver are just a part of that formula. The old system that's broken in every single aspect, and I'm an optimist, you guys know me, but our financial system is broken, our educational system is broken, our government is broken, our medical system is broken. All these systems are broken, and they're funded by toxic money through lack and scarcity. So when we shift this system into here, which is abundance and for the people, by the people, sovereignty, the entire world changes. And we are very well on our way with it. And again, I'm an investor, but I'm also a revolutionary. And to me, this is a peaceful revolutionary. And all it is us saying, hey, we no longer choose to support this system with our dollars. We now choose to support this system with our dollars. It's as simple as that on a macro level.
And talking about Society 2.0, we've spent a lot of time talking about that, you and Greg and Ann and I.
We have.
Do another podcast and help give people that vision, because
100%.
it's so powerful, right? If you, the listener, are not aware of all the amazing things coming on the horizon as all of the current systems are breaking, all the current systems that don't work anyway are breaking, it can be super scary. You're like, oh my God, where are we going? What's going to happen? Oh my God, right? But let us paint a picture for you of what we see coming. Let us tell you a story so that you can get that into your head and see the possibilities, because that's where reality starts. Reality starts with being able to put on a different set of lenses and have a different perception so that you can move into a different reality. And we would be super excited, Boris, to have you on and we can talk about all the amazing things that are on the horizon that are coming so that our listeners can have a new picture in their mind, and help them to step into a new and different and much more beautiful reality.
I would love that. Absolutely. We could certainly do that. I think it's a wonderful idea. Yeah. All individuals need right now is just if picture, like you said, of what's possible and what's probable. And there are many examples that we can offer of what's possible and why it's probable. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Um, so I guess we're going to wrap it up today. Thank you so much, Boris, for sharing this. We are super excited, for all of our listeners to get to hear this. This is life changing for them. And this course, for all of you listening, Boris did put together a course, and you can get through the course. It's not a lot of fluff. It gets right to the meat, tells you exactly what to do. It gives you just a really, really good history, and then tells you exactly like the steps to take. And you can get all this. Literally, you could get everything done and set up in, what do you think, about an hour or so, Boris?
So the course is designed to deliver all information how I want it. Short, concise, and laser point. Like to me, the worst thing I can do is watch an hour worth of content that could be explained or summarized in 10 to 15 minutes. To me, that's torture. Literally, I go bonkers. So that's how I present all of my information, the way I would like it presented. You can get through all the content in the course, my actual content, in about an hour. However, there are a number of different articles and interviews and videos and resources available. And if you were to go through all of that, that'll take you just over 3 hours. So again, the course is designed to get you started the same day that you go through the course. It's not a 3 week or a 4 month course. No, literally, you can get done through it. You can get through it within 1 to 3 hours, depending on what you choose to, how much of the resources and actual background education you choose to go through that is available for you. So I give a basic background on gold and silver, basic background on blockchain technology, Bitcoin, and cryptocurrencies, but there are resources that will allow the individual to go into further depth on each one of those topics if more information isn't required. So I have, I like to dig sometimes, sometimes I don't. It depends on the individual. But yeah, within 1 to 3 hours, you're done with the course. Very simple.
That's so perfect. And for all of our listeners, the time is now. The time is now.
Yeah.
We see a sense of urgency that we all just need to come together and start doing this stuff now. And we've provided what? We've provided the links,
Hmm.
everything
Yep.
you need down below.
Yep. And just so that your listeners know that when signing up through your link, we will also provide a 10% off discount code to them. So all of your listeners get 10% off the course.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's so amazing. And anything else? Any questions that you have in closing?
No, you know what? I just wanted to point out the last point that Boris made. And I think it's really important to reiterate this to the people listening. Our some of our listeners may be saying, why are you guys talking about finance today? But Boris made a brilliant point, and that your financial wellness is a huge part of your overall wellness. And time again, we see our clients come to us sick because they're constantly worried over finance and money. And so, Boris, again, thank you for being here and giving us this tool that we can pass on to our clients, because financial health really ties into your overall health and wellness. And I think you put that together beautifully. And I wanted to reiterate that to those listening. Take advantage of Boris's offer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And yeah, and you guys will provide the link. There is a ton of free information on the actual course website before they even purchase the course. Feel free to go through it. Take the free information, learn, educate yourself. And if it resonates with you, you can go further. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But go and check out the website, educate yourself, see what's happening, see what's available, see what's possible, and take it from there. It's very simple.
Perfect. So well said. Thank you so much, Boris. And thank you, Greg, for joining today. And we would just want to tell all of our listeners how much we love you,
Mhm.
how much we want to see you thrive, and just really live your life. We have so many amazing interviews that we are going to be doing this year in 2021 that is just going to be they're going to be mind-blowing and eye-opening and very just like inspiring for you. Things that probably a lot of other people are not talking about. So you're going to want to share Tribe Talk with your friends, get your friends to subscribe, because we are here for you. Love you so much. Thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next week.
Bye. Thank you so much for having me, guys. And thank you to all the listeners as well.